I'm on it.
I'm a firing my laser!
Keep it up. I'll carve my enemy.
There's the express.
So unlike the first game, I don't have much memories with this one. Let's see, 2009, oh yeah, I was balls deep into Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. I was not fucking with superhero games around that time, which was kind of a loss by me since that's when Batman Arkham Asylum came out. I do remember trying out a demo of this game and thinking it was okay, but that's the thing. I just thought it was okay, nothing to be bought. Is that still the case in 2019? Well, let's get into it. So Ultimate Alliance 2 takes place sometime after the first game, but for those just checking in, don't worry, you don't have to know jack shit about the last game because the story in this game has nothing to do with that game. In fact, if anyone's watched Captain America Civil War, you already know the gist of this game's plot. Well, sort of. Yeah, the comic book and the movie version of the Civil War storyline have some key differences. Differences that you're gonna spot as I go through the plot of this game, which also has some differences of its own. So 1 year prior to the Civil War story arc, a bunch of shit goes down that causes the government to be like, damn, maybe this superhero stuff needs to be regulated. First is when Lucia Von Bardis and a bunch of other supervillains try to destroy New York. Our heroes manage to stop them, but a chunk of the city is destroyed in the process. Nick Fury takes the blame, goes underground, and a lady named Maria Hill is put in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D. The second is when Titanium Man attacks DC, and 2 senators are kidnapped, one of them being the legend himself.
Well, best of luck trying to catch that maniac. Like our state motto says, Excelsior.
Don't I know you from somewhere?
A couple of days later, a superhero group called the New Warriors broadcast themselves trying to detain a villain named Nitro. Things go bad though when Nitro creates a large explosion that kills 600 people, children included. This prompts the US government to pass the Superhero Registration Act, which enforces superpowered people to be supervised by the government. This means giving up their real names, not being able to use their powers without authorization, and a bunch of other restrictive rules. Iron Man is totally for it, Captain America, not so much. He goes underground, fights back against the registration, and a bunch of other heroes are left to choose either between being pro-registration with Iron Man or anti-registration with Captain America. This is also where the player has to choose, which alters the next couple of missions. Things get a little complicated from here, so we'll return back to the story later. I'm Team Cap all the way, baby. Fuck authority. I mean, come on, if you had superpowers like super strength and being able to fly, would you really let the government tell you what to do with it? Whatever side you choose though doesn't really matter since events more or less remain the same, but we'll get to my disappointment with that later. So unlike the first game, this game's a full-fledged 7th gen game. You know what that means? Yep, upgraded graphics. Although compared to other games of its time, it's still nothing remarkable to look at. Still, they got everybody looking like they're supposed to, except for Venom. They got him looking like something from Spawn. The only real step back in terms of visuals is the environments themselves. They're not X-Men Legends bad, but they don't compare to the first game where you literally go to hell and back. What is a major upgrade though is that this game doesn't crap itself when there's more than 5 enemies on screen. Same with explosions. This game sure loves its explosions. The first game had a bunch of explosions and debris flying around also, but not to this degree. Honestly, it's better for it. If you didn't care for the first Ultimate Alliance game, then this game definitely won't change your mind. Pretty much the same concept as the first. You form a squad with whatever Marvel hero you want, beat up a bunch of bad guys, and then allocate some of the points to increase the skills of your heroes. Where this game differs from its predecessor is that it leans a lot more on the action and the RPG stuff. So much so I don't even know why they even bothered in the first place. The skills are so simplified in this game that you might as well just let the game allocate your points for you. All that in the other game with the different costumes having different benefits are not even here this time, which is pretty lame. At least they switched up a good chunk of the hero's moves this time around. Like the last game, you're going to be going through levels in a dungeon crawly manner, but unlike the last game, there's a lot more stopping and fighting off waves of enemies. Something that I would be fine with if they improved the combat to be, I don't know, a little bit more in depth. It's the exact same combat system from the first game, which was pretty generic to begin with. You know, standard punches and kicks with some grabs here and there. Suffice to say, I got bored of this game twice as fast as I did the last one because of the non-stop action. It's not like these levels are short too. The only reason I kept pushing on is because of one new addition. Yep, the fusion attacks. By God, they actually listened. Well, not really, since that video is 10 years removed from the release of the game, but I digress. Anyway, so these fusion attacks kind of speak for themselves. One of your heroes combine their attacks with another hero to do some massive attack that either murks all enemies within a certain radius or a massive damage to a single target. So these fusion attacks are pretty fucking awesome. They're flashy, they do a crap ton of damage, and they also replace that shallow command system from the last game. The developers even went through the effort of making a bunch of different animations for each pair of heroes. So for like Iron Man and Wolverine, Iron Man will shoot his laser beams into Wolverine's claws to spread the blast into multiple different directions. Or with like, I don't know, Spider-Man and Miss Marvel, Spider-Man will like web up every enemy in one place for like Miss Marvel to blast away. It's pretty dope, and it definitely makes your team actually feel like a team. However, I wish we could experiment with the fusion attacks with the cast of heroes in the first game, because the cast of heroes in this game I'm not feeling as much. All the A-list heroes are still here, but the B-list heroes in the last game like Elektra and Ghost Rider are replaced with guys like Penance and Songbird, characters I simply don't care for as much. There's also this whole thing with certain characters being exclusive to certain consoles, which is also pretty lame. Oh yeah, speaking on that, this is one of those games that was made for everything from the PlayStation 3 to the DS, each version having different developers. All you need to know is that the PlayStation 3 and 360 versions are the only ones you should be playing. Everything else is complete ass. But back to the cast and choosing between both sides, the majority of characters are at your disposal whether you choose pro registration or anti-registration. Yeah, it kind of makes the choice between both sides not as meaningful, but the Civil War storyline in this game in general doesn't really matter anyway. Whether you choose to side with Iron Man or Captain America, the next couple of missions remain the same, just with opposing characters as bosses. So if you like choose anti-registration in this part, you'll fight Black Widow instead of Spider-Woman, or in this part you'll fight a big Yellow Jacket instead of a big Goliath. Same exact levels, just character swaps. Can you see why this was a little disappointing to me? If you ask me, it was definitely a missed opportunity to have what you're doing actually make an impact. The game even further makes these events more inconsequential, with Nick Fury showing up halfway through the game basically telling you, hey, your war is stupid because there's real bad guys that need to be stopped, so join up with me. Okay. So that's pretty much what you do. You end up fighting these guys called the Fold for the rest of the game. Well, so much for the Civil War. Did I mention that there's also this like half-assed dialogue system that doesn't amount to anything? Whenever you talk to somebody, you can either respond in an aggressive way, a defensive way, or a diplomatic way. But however way you respond doesn't really matter, since it doesn't affect the story at all or how characters view you. And every option has you responding in a dickish manner anyway, even diplomatic, although it is the least dickish of the three. What's weird is that the aggressive response is usually the most positive one. If you have a specific character conversing with another character, you can stumble upon these secret conversations where characters in your party actually talk back. These secret convos were pretty interesting, but at the same time, it's nothing that I jizzed my pants over. so it may seem like I'm grasping at things to talk about with this game, but the only reason that is because this game doesn't really improve upon anything from the first game aside from the graphics and the fusion moves. I definitely preferred the level design of the first game since it kept you on the move while not being so linear. There was also way more content in the last game with all the different suits and side missions to find. I'll say that bosses are a slight improvement this time around, but the only reason I feel this way is because they don't have half-assed QTEs like the bosses in the last game did.
Great. Here we go again.
Hey, Fury, where's that Bravo team you've been trying to reach?
Communication's still jammed. Someone's gonna have to go round them up. And you just volunteered.
What? And leave all the fun to you girls? Bite me, Fury.
No time to argue, Shorty. Take West with you. Locate Bravo team and find another way into that castle.
You heard the man, Webhead. Let's move.
Yeah. Sheesh, respect.
So after Nick Fury tells our heroes that the first half of the game is pointless, they end up going to the negative zone where they collect samples of the nanite formula in order to stop the nanites. Nick Fury activates the self-destructive system to prevent the spread of these nanites, but unfortunately him and some other heroes, they don't make it out of the zone in time and are assumed to be dead. Their deaths were in vain too because it's soon discovered that the nanites survived and are now spreading worldwide. The US government, realizing what a threat this is, temporarily lifts the registration bill uniting all the heroes once again. Our main group of heroes are sent to Wakanda to help out Black Panther fight out the nanites who now go by the name The Fold. They're successful, and they also find out that Nick Fury is still alive and being held captured. For the final mission, our heroes go to some base in like Iceland or some shit, where they broadcast some signal that frees those in control of the nanites. They also face off against the Tinkerer, who's revealed to be behind the whole thing, and Nick Fury, who's gone through some nanite transformation. After kicking both of their asses, depending on which side you choose, you get a slightly different ending. So if you're anti-registration, the Superhero Registration Act is repealed, with Captain America giving a speech at the Lincoln Memorial about heroes getting another chance. If you're pro-registration, then the Registration Act is still intact, but updated to have heroes volunteer instead, and Iron Man gives a speech at the Lincoln Memorial about heroes not being weapons and shit. Yeah, the story in this game sucks ball sacks, and that's both in comparison to the movie and the comic, but more so the comic in my opinion. The comic is just better written. Not to bore anybody with the nerdy details, but in the comic, there's more characters on each side, more characters have significant roles, characters die and shit. It also doesn't deviate with some nanite bullshit. None of this is to say that the comic is perfect, trust me, it's far from it, but there's just a lot more tension there in comparison to this game. Also, this is kind of a side gripe, but I feel like Captain America and Iron Man's voices should be switched. Like, to me, Captain America should always have like a deep voice, while Iron Man should like sound kind of nerdy, but not too nerdy because, you know, he's like a playboy billionaire, but anyway. So yeah, that's Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2. Can you tell that I don't like this one as much as the first one? It's essentially the first game with a bunch of content removed and a weaker story. It's not bad, but if you've played the first game and you haven't played this one, you're not really missing out on anything. For those that haven't played either, then you might as well just play the first one since that's the better game if you ask me. By the time of making this video, the third game isn't out yet, so I have no idea about the quality of that one. But shit, if it's good, then you might as well play that one too. Anyway, that's all I gotta say about this, so until next time.